me with my kids. I saw an article a while back about how Australia's export potential will be crippled unless farmers embrace GM technology. I've always been morally against GM food, but the article got me thinking. What about GMOs for people who don't have moral objections? Are they safe? Are they sustainable? How do they affect humans and the environment? This is my journey to find out. GM crops were introduced in 1994 and have increased dramatically since. Crops are modified for a number of traits, but the most common are herbicide tolerance, marketed as Roundup and patented by Monsanto, and insect resistance, marketed as Bt crops by Syngenta. Many crops are now being stacked with multiple traits. Roundup-ready crops are made by bombarding plant cells with microscopic particles of tungsten or gold covered in DNA that contains a gene from Agrobacterium, a plant virus sequence, and an antibiotic resistance gene. The new DNA is carried beyond the crop's cell walls and incorporated into its DNA. The bacterial gene synthesizes amino acids that are glyphosate resistant. The viral sequence switches the bacterial gene on, and the antibiotic resistance gene acts as a marker so scientists can tell which plants have accepted the new genes. In Australia, over 95% of cotton is genetically modified. The only other GM crop grown here is canola. Conversely, the US is the largest producer of GMOs. 93% of commercially grown corn, 94% of soybeans, and 96% of cotton are genetically modified. With such a huge amount of GMOs, safety and sustainability are paramount. On one side, governments, many scientists, and industry professionals have overwhelming evidence in favor of GMOs, including 20 years of cultivation with no known side effects, and over 600 peer-reviewed studies, all concluding that GMOs pose no health risk. On the other side, consumers and organizations against GMOs claim consumption can cause organ damage, cancer, autism, and other illnesses. They say herbicide use initially went down, but then increased dramatically due to the emergence of glyphosate-resistant superweeds. On the surface, the abundance of scientific data favorable to GMOs seems conclusive, but I noticed there are also lots of studies that show organ and tissue damage. All of them have been discredited for various reasons, including bad science, not using an isogenic line, and not meeting international standards. Do they have good reasons for not sticking to standards? Perhaps they couldn't obtain isogenic lines or specific GM events because the patent holder wouldn't give them access, so they had to use non-trait specified lines instead, with non-isogenic counterparts as controls. I emailed study authors to find out, but all of my emails bounced back, so I guess we'll never know. Some unfavorable studies certainly are bad science, with too small sample sizes, illness-prone subjects, lack of raw data, and even studies performed by people who aren't scientists. What about all the studies that were up to standards? According to Food Standards Australia, it's the responsibility of the patent holder to demonstrate the safety of their GMO and provide supporting evidence. So, the company that's set to either make money with the approval of the GMO, or lose the millions it costs to engineer and test it, is also the one who is in charge of its testing and safety data. And according to Scientific American, due to patents, independent studies are either not allowed or blocked from publication if they yield unfavorable results. This has huge implications and only brings up more questions, so I decided to go straight to the source. Hi, I just wanted to talk to somebody about how you guys test the GMOs.
I'm trying to get details, please. I'll get someone to give you a call back.
I left my details a week ago and nobody's called me back yet.
No, I'll pass on your details and someone to give you a call back today.
Herbicides associated with GM crops, like glyphosate-based Roundup, which contaminate water supplies due to runoff and are harmful to aquatic organisms. Prolonged exposure to glyphosate in drinking water can cause kidney damage and reduced fertility. GM crops with insect resistance significantly lower insecticide usage, meaning less water contamination and less deaths of non-target species. Agricultural biotechnology companies patent their GM seeds, preventing farmers from seed saving. Instead, they purchase seeds every year, adding to their carbon footprint since seeds have to be shipped from their development site to a supplier and finally to the farmer. Fertilizers and herbicides are often derived from fossil fuels, making the whole GM cropping system unsustainable long-term. GMOs are not a sustainable long-term option, especially as more weeds become glyphosate resistant. Fossil fuel reliance isn't only inherent to GM crops, though. Conventional monocropping is in the same boat. Neither is a good option long-term. I I don't think there's just one solution though. I think we'll have to adopt many different systems, such as urban organic farming, aquaponics, and others that haven't even been invented yet, if we want to feed the world in a sustainable, environmentally friendly way. Despite the unsustainability of GMOs, the pro-GM side is more credible. Study after study finds GMOs safe for human consumption. There is one major issue with GMOs though. They've never been tested on humans. If long-term consumption has negative health effects, we won't be able to pinpoint GMOs as the cause without long-term human studies. But since GMOs have been in the food chain for 20 years and are in 70% of packaged food in Australia and the US, finding a control group that's never been exposed to GMOs would be extremely difficult, if not impossible. Processed ingredients don't have to be labeled. Other countries like the US don't have any labeling laws at all. People everywhere are eating GMOs every day and they don't even know it.